start off with our supply chain topic. So to get started, Harshal, maybe you can comment on this. Basically, we're going to start with the whole supply chain, and either as a business owner or a customer, I'm sure everyone has experienced the change that is occurring with supply chain and the issues that are prevalent. So maybe you could comment on, or just
really excited about everyone being here and discuss the problems that are being faced by D2C brands at this moment. Thank you so much for organizing this webinar, and hopefully we'll be able to impart and discuss a lot of these challenges during this conversation. Coming to the supply chain processes, what we've seen over the last couple of years is we've seen a huge increase in the freight rates. We've seen the supply chain being choked because of a huge number of lockdowns across the globe. And still, even today, the condition is actually not gone back to normal. In last 3 months, we have seen a lot of congestion in the supply chain happening across the globe, mainly in China. So a lot of D2C brands and e-commerce brand owners, they have to be aware of these issues about, let's say, when it comes to the increase in the freight prices, which have actually shot up like 15 times. If you're talking about ocean freights on a lot of routes, what used to be a $500 price, it's basically now costing somewhere between $7,000 $8,000. That is a huge increase in the prices, and that is something which we do not see going down. It has improved at this point. We have seen some reductions in the prices, but it is still not where it should be. So D2C brands that they have actually faced, they are actually facing this issue. They are facing the delays. Because of this, they have seen erosion of bottom line because of the freight prices. And not just this, the reduction in liquidity is also becoming a huge problem because of a supply chain. People are not able to finance or get capital to finance the purchase orders, hence delaying the procurement, the supply chain, again affecting the overall procurement. So that is something which almost every D2C brand at this point is facing a problem which we do not see going back to normal in short term. In long term, yes, this is something which will improve, but in short term is very important for an owner to take reconnaissance of these problems and adjust the operations, adjust the efficiency of the operations, so that the impact of these challenges is minimum.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I guess it's really important for businesses to be ahead of that versus be on the reactive side of that, because you want to make sure that they can actually handle all the changes that are happening. And like you said, it's not going to change in the short term, but in the long term may correct itself. So what do you think customers should do in order to optimize and prepare the supply chain in advance of this happening?
I think there are few things which, as a business owner, which they can work on. I think most important would be the working capital management, how you can decrease or reduce the inventory, how you can bring in technology to make your process more efficient. If you have been keeping 30 days worth of inventory, try working with a lower number, reduce the amount of inventory you have in store, which will make your organization more efficient. It will reduce the working capital. It will reduce the capital you need to borrow, which can directly benefit your bottom line. So that is one thing which people can work on. There are a few things which are out of control. For example, things which are happening overseas, so that we cannot control all of them, but have backup plans. Try to figure out more suppliers who can provide you the goods, of course, keeping the quality in mind. So these are a few things which one can work upon, but the most important thing is be aware of the changes that can actually hamper your growth. and adjust the organization accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. Ahmed, do you have any comment on how a business can prepare themselves or what they can expect in the coming months in terms of supply chain issues?
I think at times in hardships, there's always a room for innovation. And I think this is one of those times where merchants and technology providers should start innovating in supply chain management solutions. I think a lot of companies are already doing that right now. So leveraging technology and proper working capital management, I think a lot of merchants can still make some good work throughout hardships.
Yeah, great point. All right, so moving on to a different topic, but switching, but obviously very important in every aspect of the business, is looking at consumer behavior. Because obviously in a time like a recession, consumer behavior is going to change. Disposable income is going to look different, spending habits are going to look different, and businesses really need to figure out how to do that because you want to make sure that there's high switching costs between businesses. So you keep your customers, you retain them, you keep them happy, provide them a good experience. So Ahmed, maybe you can start on this question, or you guys can have a conversation about this, but how do you think that businesses can deal with potential customers that are unable to perform a purchase? So they're interested in the brand, but they may not be able to, or how do you incentivize them further? How do you encourage them that this is a good purchase to make and kind of get them across the line to make that purchase?
So yes, throughout like when inflation is high, when there's recession, when there's hardships, pandemic, for example, or something like that, usually the purchasing power of people starts to decrease. And however, purchasing does not stop because the needs are still there. People will still need to buy new shoes. You'll still need to buy things for your own kids. You need to prepare them for school. You will keep on getting married and having kids. So your needs will continue to be there, and you will need to like keep on purchasing things for your own. However, maybe the habit could change. Like instead of buying 10 items of something, I'd only buy 5 and delay the other ones, and so on. So at this stage, merchants should work on helping their customers buy or purchase. So they're going to still need to purchases. You just need as a merchant to enable them to do that smoothly. So for example, enable things like buy now, pay later solutions. Maybe enable, give them some incentives and rewards, and maybe build loyalty with their customers so that they would come back again to purchase again. Maybe help them with cashback incentives. So you just need to help your customers complete those purchases. They still need to buy things from you. You just need to help them out complete that order. It's going to be a little bit harder, but it's still a need. They would still need to buy things from you. And you just need to facilitate that kind of purchases and transactions for your customers. Enable different payment options.
I actually agree with Ahmed. I think the consumer behavior will not drastically change. One thing which will come into the play, one good thing which I've seen during this period is actually the low unemployment rate, which is not affecting the consumer behavior at this point, and we will continue to see a lot of demand in the market. Given that, we should be, as a business owner, one should always keep in mind that loyalty is something which will continue to work in their favor. And if they're not using loyalty, if they're not building trust in front of their consumers, it is going to affect them when there is a change in the consumer behavior. Even if it's small change, it's going to hurt them badly. So also loyalty is something which they should definitely keep in mind. Imparting a brilliant customer experience, visitor experience is very important in these times so that people remember your brand. So have a very good loyalty program, give them a very good experience when they come to your website, or even if they're not on your website, if you are somehow interacting with them, do give them an excellent experience. Try to personalize it as much as possible. Try to reach out to them with the relevant content, with the relevant offers of products, which will definitely incentivize people to purchase from you. So these two things can definitely combine and make sure the impact of any change in consumer behavior is minimal for your T2C brand. Otherwise, when there's a change in consumer behavior, it is definitely going to hurt, because people would try to find a cheaper option when there is low liquidity, if that happens, and that will result in people switching to different brands. So that is something which should keep in mind, should start right away. And the focus should be on increasing or retaining as many customers as possible, ensuring you have repeat purchases from the same customers, you have a higher LTV, try to improve it as much as possible, and focus on these aspects so that you're able to monetize your existing customers.
So also, I just want to second that and add one more point. So basically, one of the things that merchants should be doing during economic downturns is basically preparing for post the hard time. So for example, post-pandemic, post-recession. So maybe if your customer is not even purchasing right now, you still need to keep that kind of communication between you and your customer through, like you said, Arshil, sending relevant content and keeping that line of communication there, because when the hard time passes, your customers will get back to you and will get back to continue purchasing from you. You want them to come back to you instead of going to another competitor. So maybe this is not the time for them to buy, but it's going to happen in the future, and you need to be there on top of their mind when they are ready to make that purchase.
Absolutely, and we've already seen it. So if you see, the travel industry went to almost zero at a much higher level than it was before. So the consumer demand, it picks up rapidly, and when it does, you should be there in people's mind. You should be there at the forefront. So definitely keep the conversation open with your customers.
Definitely agree. And even just to add something onto that, I think it's the constant brand awareness and making sure that your customer knows about the brand, is excited about it, where if they can't purchase right now, you continue that lifelong relationship with them. So they've got you in mind, and when the time comes, they can purchase, and they've got a really good experience no matter what. Like you said, Harshal, about offering them different loyalty, different experiences, always providing a great experience so that they feel always supported, even if they can't purchase in the moment. So I guess that brings us into the next question of current customers. So you've got your customer base, you're rewarding them, you're making sure that they have a great experience. Some business owners are a little bit stressed about the idea of handling churn and consumers switching to cheaper competitors, because like you mentioned, obviously sometimes people switch to those because in the moment they need to do something like that, but how do you bring them back to your brand, and how do you handle churn? So whoever would like to start on that, maybe just discussing handling the scariness that is churn and how to make sure that you can avoid that or handle it if it does happen.
Yeah, so I think churn is something which will happen. It's a continuous process. It is happening at this moment as well. It might increase, but brand loyalty is something which stays even if someone, let's assume someone has tried your product, they purchased your product and they liked it. Not today, maybe tomorrow they will come back and buy your brand because they understand the quality, they want to stick with it. It is not about finding the cheaper product in the market. It is also about finding the right product. So if you are selling the right product, making sure that even during the tough times when the cost of raw material is going up, you're not reducing the quality, and you're still going with same quality and with the same brand presence, then it's not going to affect you much. Yes, the churn might increase a bit. It should be kept in mind. There are few tactics, the few things you can try to make sure these things stay in control. For example, loyalty is something which you can use. You can find out how you can impart more value to the customers, and how you can actually give them more discounts, you can give them more options, you can give them more options for payments. For example, what Ahmed said about buy now, pay later, is something which can be used to make sure that people are able to purchase the products. So I think once you employ these strategies, we can keep the churn down, even if they move to a different brand, a cheaper brand. they will come back because they do understand the quality of product. They do understand that quality matters in the long term. But do focus on the people who are probably not going to different brands, people who are sticking to your brand. Do give a lot of attention to these people as well. Do not lose the focus. And that is something which a lot of brands do. They go after those 5%, 10% of the consumers who are moving and switching to different brands, losing sight of the rest of the 18, 90% customers, and they're not able to impart the right value to these customers. So that is a big negative, one focus point for all the brands to be very careful about. So if you have these two things in mind, I think the brand should be okay navigating through these scenarios.
Yeah, I also think that most of the merchants that we see, they focus on acquisition instead of retention. So they pay a lot of money for advertisement. They want to bring a lot of customers to their front door, but then whatever happens inside their stores is not as important. So they focus on continuously bringing in new customers. But the experience that happens, like the experience that those customers see inside your store, is what makes all the difference. Because if they come and they find the wrong product, or maybe they find the right product but bad customer service, or maybe they find the right customer service but bad after sales service, that's why they don't come back. So you need to first identify the reasons for why your customers are actually churning, and then start fixing those issues. But I think the number one thing that you need to do is actually maintaining focus on retention instead of focusing only on bringing in new customers all the time. You don't really need to bring in new customers all the time. Your true growth will happen by nurturing your existing customer base, and by making sure you're delighting your customers, you're offering the best experience, and you're making sure that they want to come and buy again from you instead of other competitors. It's not just about pricing anymore, because prices are already there everywhere. Discounts are everywhere. Buy now, pay later solutions are on all platforms, basically. So it all comes down right now to customer experience, to how your customers enjoy shopping in your store, basically.
I guess a quick follow-up question to what you just said, Ahmed, is just how you said focusing more on retention, not acquisition. How would you say teams should focus their time, like 80-20 on retention, acquisition, 90-10? And what would be the best way to go about doing that?
It doesn't actually work that way. Like you still need to work on acquisition as well, right? The problem is CAC is continuously increasing and ROAS is continuously decreasing. So when times are really hard, it becomes really tight. Should you focus your marketing budget on paying a lot of money to bring customers who most probably will not purchase, or will only purchase one time and then leave? Or should you focus more on upselling products to customers who already completed purchases in your store? Because this is a little bit easier and less costly to do, and they would still do the same purchase value that new customers would be doing, but with lesser cost, right? So sometimes you need to maintain the balance between acquiring new customers and retaining your existing customer base. Like for example, if you're still getting started, just got started with your business, you probably need to acquire customers. So now you need to focus your marketing budget on acquisition to acquire your customer base. But then once you have the good base, you need to start focusing on building the right brand experience with your existing customers, building the right communications, maintaining this relationship with your customers, and making sure they would want to come and buy again and again and again, because this is actually where your true growth will happen.
Yeah. Just to add to that point, I think different kind of stores can actually have different kind of strategies. For example, there are a lot of FMCG and consumable product stores, and they rely a lot on recurring purchases. For example, people come and purchase every single month, and they have to focus a lot on retention, because once they have acquired a customer, they can generate constant revenue from the same customer, and the retention is the purchase rate is high. It's almost one order every month. So those kind of stores, they have to focus a lot more on retention. But the problem there is generally the AOV for these stores is actually low. It's not as high as other stores. So the customer acquisition cost is higher, the ROS is low, and then they have to try to make sure that the people are actually purchasing every month. So focusing a lot on the existing customers becomes a priority as compared to, let's say, an item which you purchase probably once every year or once in 2 years or 3 years. There you have to focus a lot on customer acquisition. Most of the electronic stores, they focus a lot of, they actually do a lot of acquisition. Every time a customer comes in, they have to bring a new customer, because that particular customer will not come back and purchase any product from their website for another 2 years. So the strategy varies hugely. And then if you're trying to impart higher value to the same customer, then you have to have a good amount of inventory and SKUs so that you can impart that value. And that becomes a problematic when you're growing, because managing a high number of SKUs is again extremely difficult. You have to manage supply chain for the same thing, and then you also have to manage warehousing. You have to manage working capital and so on. So it becomes extremely difficult to try. So imparting value to the same customer is not as easy. In case you're not selling a consumable product.
Yeah, that's a great point, and actually leads perfectly to my next question, which is thinking about revenue generation and obviously the challenges, the obstacles that come with that, because I guess management and their teams will have to figure out how to reorganize their efforts and what to focus on for when this obviously does happen. So kind of going off of what you and Ahmed were discussing about this acquisition to retention split, how should a company go about keeping their cost to acquire a customer in check without affecting the overall ROAS, which is return on ad spend, if anyone needs a clarification?
So CAC has been going up for a while now, and especially after the changes by Apple, the ads that are being delivered, they're not as relevant, leading to, again, the increase in customer acquisition costs and the reduction in ROS. So that is one thing that has been felt across the industry, and it has become extremely difficult for people to acquire customers at a lower cost. There are a few things which people can do. One is using the existing customer base, using word of mouth strategies to grow your audience. Try to convert your existing customers and make them your brand ambassadors. That is one of the most efficient ways of acquiring new customers. And it actually works much better than any other channel, because the new customers who are going to come in, they're going to be closely related to your existing customers. That is one very important area. The second important area is influencer marketing. That is becoming huge. That has actually become huge in the last 2 to 3 years, and that is a huge. It's become a huge acquisition channel for a lot of brands. So that is another thing, another strategy that people D2C brands can actually deploy to gain customers. Apart from this, there are a few other things which people can do to improve on the existing processes. For example, they can try to make the ads more relevant by using the existing data. For example, they can use the data which are being generated by personalization software and improve the targeting using hidden attributes. So that is another thing which people can use. So technology has solutions. Like, you can throw any problem and technology will find a way to navigate. So that is something which we've seen again and again. I think in this case, the answer is again, technology, using the right product, using the right technology to find solutions to these problems.
I also want to add that one of the tactics that a lot of merchants have been using recently is community management, community building. So building a community around your product, building a community around your story, your brand story, is something that's also a source of acquisition, and it's cheap acquisition. You just need to have a lot of people who are enthusiasts or your product enthusiasts, and then they would spread the word for you. they say like the best salesperson is a happy customer. Like when you have a happy customer, they would be promoting your product, advocating your service to others. That's why using referral programs, affiliate programs, and community management like tactics could be a great cheap way to actually acquire new customers. And of course, using technology to optimize campaigns and retargeting, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what's important here is figuring out how to build those communities, build that loyalty around people, get that excitement going around your current customers so that even if they're not purchasing, they're giving that word of mouth, which is, like you said, the best form of marketing from a happy customer. So I guess thinking about the next question is how do you both think that brands can build that trust in that community to improve their customer loyalty and retention? So we're looking at improving the lifetime value of a customer and making sure that they are that happy customer who has the positive word of mouth, spreading the word, doing referrals, things like that. What would you say is the best way to do so and improve that overall lifetime value with the customer?
All right, so I think, Sasha.
Oh, please go ahead. Yeah.
So I was just going to say that there's a reason why your customers came to you in the first place. And if they found the promise that you promised them, they would come back again. So for example, if you are promoting a certain quality, product quality, and they find it, now they trust you. If they're promoting good customer service and they find good customer service, now they trust you. If they come because they're looking for something and they find something else, now they don't trust you. So you need to keep up with your promises to your customers. If you're promoting certain value, if you're promoting certain quality, you need to keep up your word, and you need to remain up to their expectations. And it all comes down to customer service, customer experience, the quality of your product. And I think it starts from there. And then the second step would be if they trust your brand, they would want to be loyal to your brands. Now you can reward them, incentivize them, build loyalty programs, build referral programs, and build that community around your customers.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So I think trust is the most important thing to note over there in any relationship, whether it's a consumer-producer relationship. Trust is something which has to be there right from the beginning, and not just once the product has been sold. You have to stay with the customer even after that, whether it is during the returns process or during any problem that they are facing. You have to make sure that you are able to impart the right experience. If you are setting an expectation of a certain level of experience, certain level of trust, then you have to go and do beyond that to be able to gain that loyalty from the customers. So those things, if you are able to impart those things to your end customers, they're going to be your brand ambassador, and they're going to spread the word and get you more customers.
And I guess I have an interesting question for you guys, which will be a tough question because there's so many wonderful features of both platforms. But what would you say is one of the best features on both the GAMEBALL and the GLOOD.AI platform that is a trust building feature of the platform, which I warned you guys is a tough question because there's so many great features, but maybe just one that comes to mind that is a good trust building feature that you think.
Emma, you want to take that first?
No.
Sorry, I did give you guys a small warning that it would be a tough question.
All right, let me answer that. So GAMEBALL is actually packed with a lot of features, and it's an all-in-one retention management software, or this is how we promote it. But then we always continue to look to try to investigate what customers come for first. Like they always look for one thing, and then they start exploring the other features. And it looks like most of the customers, they come to us for the cashback management thing. So they come because they trust this feature, they use it, they like it, and then they start exploring all the other features consequently. So I think that's it for GAMEBALL in a nutshell.
Yeah. So I think for Glued, what people come for is to impart or increase the conversion rate. They want to increase the conversion rate. So for example, most of the D2C brands, they have a conversion rate between 1 and 2, 2.5, 3. That is the general range. And they're looking to increase the conversion just to get more out of the ad spend. And when they try to explore the platform, they're looking at functionalities such as frequently bought together or similar products personalized for you. And then they discover that a platform can actually be customized at a much greater scale and much greater length. For example, we can create custom or recommendation models for brands if you have a specific requirement. So those advanced functionalities are built into the system, which has helped a lot of brands with unique problems. For example, we have brands who sell just one quantity of every single SKU. Now, recommendation is such an environment, is such a store is a pain, because you never have the history of the product which has not been sold yet. And we developed a custom recommendation model for them to impart the right recommendations, which immediately gave them a bump of over 40% in the AOV. So again, just with just one functionality, they were able to make additional revenue out of it. And then we have a lot of advanced capabilities. For example, we have a very advanced visual builder as well as code editor, which is same as the Shopify theme editor, where you can just build and create custom designs of the widgets and layouts. So those functionalities have been appreciated a lot by some of our customers.
Yeah, I can definitely agree that the frequently bought or recommended for you works on me every single time, especially when I'm buying treats or something like that. But that's one of my favorite aspects about the platform, of how personalized it can become. And I trust it better when there's good recommendations, so I can see why that's such a powerful engine. And on the GAMEBALL side, I tell all of my clients that the challenges are my absolute favorite thing, because customers can engage in a fun way. They can come back for different challenges. They're looking forward for what's next. So lots of great different ideas for both platforms that are under this whole personalization topic. So with that, how you guys both mentioned on retention and conversion rate and things like that, which KPIs do you think should matter most to marketers and managers? And maybe it's different between the marketing team and the management team, but which KPIs do you think are the most important or should matter the most to them?
All right.
Whoever wants to start.
I think a lot of marketeers and also managers, they fall into the trap of tracking vanity metrics. So things like traffic in itself do not represent value, but the money that you make from that traffic, that's what matters. So you always need to track monetary metrics. You need to keep your eyes on the revenues. How much money are you making from the money that you spend? Like, you continuously spend on different marketing campaigns, on ads or whatever, and you need to start to keep your eyes on the actual money that you make out of that money. Like, a lot of marketeers will just track impressions and traffic and that kind of things, and these are useless metrics, vanity metric. If they are not reflecting on your revenue, they just don't make sense. I think all the metrics should, you need to keep your eye on the revenue, and then you break that down to the relevant KPIs. So whatever KPIs that you need to achieve so that you would reach that figure that you want to achieve at the end of the year, those should be the metrics that you keep on tracking on a daily basis. If you want some specifics, I'd say keep your eyes on average revenue per customer, average order value, repeated purchases rate, retention, I don't know, CAC, LTV. Those are some of the most important metrics that you need to keep tracking.
Yeah, I think running a business as a businessman, the most important metric is the profit. And that is what matters the more. The more cash flow, the free cash flow you have, better chances of you growing the business. So always keep a focus on the bottom line, how much cash you're able to generate, and that will translate into more customer acquisitions, better customer experience, and better product, because then you can invest a lot in R&D as well. So keep like, this should be the most important metric for any D2C brand. Apart from this, they should focus on the margins, because that is what allows them to focus on customer acquisition, experience, the growth of your company, the R&D. So all of it comes from that. So keep a focus on this. And once you have these metrics in check, then you can reinvest them in customer acquisition. Then you can focus on CAC, you can focus on ROAS, and so on.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing to note here that I would recommend if you're attending this webinar as a business owner or an agency who's working with clients, is there's so many metrics that you can be tracking. Everyone's going to have different ideas on what's important, what's not. And so being very clear on what's important and being able to track the top 3 or 5 or whichever you think is ideal, especially based on what Amit and Harshal are mentioning on why they're important and how you break them down. But one thing I would even recommend here is thinking through how platforms like GAMEBALL and GLOOD can help with those metrics and how you track that. And so I always encourage that if you have questions about how we can help with those metrics or how to create a strategy around those metrics, we can help you both in this webinar or afterwards. We're always happy to help with both of those. So I just recommend to keep that in mind as we do chat about these, because metrics can be very, very useful, but you want to make sure that you're focusing on the right ones. That way you're moving your company forward, not in 10 different directions without any actual movement. So that's why that question, I think, is always really important and really insightful to hear from both of you what you think is most imperative to actually keep focus on. So in terms of thinking about KPIs and what we should focus on, how do you think that management and marketing teams should adjust their vision or their strategies during a recession? So kind of going along this line of how to look forward, how to deal with what's coming, how do you think that they should adjust their overall strategy and their vision during a recession, and how might that change afterwards? Whoever would like to go first.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So in this kind of a scenario, one thing is be realistic. So first is analysis to figure out exactly what is the impact and how much it can impact you. So that is the most important thing. Once you are able to judge that, then you can trickle those things down into your organization and find solutions to different problems. So that is the most important point to consider, the starting point for every optimization. There are a lot of things which can be done. For example, it can affect your revenues. That directly means you'll have less cash flow, you'll have less money to spend on acquisitions. You'll have to be smart about acquisition, find out the channels that are actually working, let go of the ones which are expensive and not working for you. Focus on generating as much cash as possible. That is the most important strategy when things are actually going bad or not in the direction you want them to. Focus on getting the most ROI and making sure that you survive. Survival is basically everything. If you don't survive, there's nothing after that. If you survive, there are good times ahead. So just survive during these times, and hopefully we'll see the better days ahead.
I agree with you. I second you 100%. I think the key word here is flexibility. Management teams need to remain flexible. They need to be able to optimize their cost structure, focus on doing the activities that actually generate cash. Sometimes you need to do things that don't scale, that are not relevant 100% to your business, just because you need to generate cash at this point of time. So you need to remain flexible, and marketing teams also need to remain flexible. They need to work their ways around, working with low budget, finding a smart way to acquire customers and building loyalty so that they can keep on generating money from their existing customer base instead of acquiring new ones. So I think the key word is flexibility. You need to have this mindset, flexible mindset. You need to be open to all new ideas and to just keep your focus on surviving and generating cash and making sure that the company is making it through the hard time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I guess it's different for every single business, obviously, but keeping this general mindset of being flexible and adjusting to what's happening is important. And I guess whether it's a small team, whether it's a big team, having that flexibility and elasticity is very important for being able to navigate such tough times. On the topic of being flexible and elastic with whatever you're doing, what's your take on how flexible pricing should be? What do you think customers or businesses, should do with their strategy of pricing? Should it be flexible? Should they stay rigid in what they have currently done before? What's your view on this?
I think it depends on the kind of brand you're running. If the brand is very open, then I think the pricing was set according to the value the product is able to impart, and that will remain the same irrespective. It is not going to change. There can be factors which can come in. For example, the CAC can go up, which can reduce your margins, and depending on whether it's a short-term effect or it's a long-term effect, a brand should be able to take a call whether pricing needs to be updated or not. If it's a short term, you can take the hit. Definitely, it's something you should carry forward with existing prices. But if it is not, if you see that this is something which can take your company down, which is something which is not sustainable, then you should be flexible, because ultimately, like I said, the goal is survival. The goal is able to generate revenue so that you have enough cash in hand to survive another day. So that is something which depends on again the kind of product and the kind of state you are in. And going ahead with the changing pricing right away is not something that imparts a very good or it does not impart a very good impression to the end customer. And you should not do that regularly as well. You should not change the pricing too often. So these things have to be kept in mind, because it is something that people are very conscious of, especially in these times. So changing, yes, one should be flexible, but keeping in mind that you should be imparting that much value. And it is only done just to make sure that it is hurting your chance of survival, and that will help you in generating more cash.
And I think one way to do it, like you can work around this by having flexible payment options, flexible return policy, money back guarantee policies, and these kind of things. So this is how you actually go around the pricing thing. But I agree with Harshal, you shouldn't be playing around with the price points quite often. You need to iterate on that, like not too frequently.
Yeah, if I could even just add something that I saw from a brand. I was attending a conference and they gave us notice that they were increasing their prices. But one thing that was really lovely about it and gained a lot of trust in our eyes as customers was being very transparent as to why. So if you do change your pricing, being transparent about it, alongside those things like the flexible return policy or the refund, whatever it may be, having a lot of transparency about why you're doing what you're doing builds a lot of trust with your customers as well, whether it's pricing or actually even anything else. But it's something I really enjoyed seeing, because even though there was an increase in price, I understood why. I was actually more willing to pay in that case because they gave me that reason why. So even going along what you guys both said, I think having some transparency around why you do what you do will not only build trust in your customers, but it'll actually have them want to purchase with you more, because they know they're not just being charged extra just because you want to. So I think having that transparency in a tough time like a recession is also quite important. So with that, I'll just bring us to our, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ahmed.
No, it's not me.
Oh, sorry, was it Harshal? I heard someone adding something.
I completely agree with what you said. Transparency is very important.
Yeah, agreed. Awesome. Okay, so I'll just end off on one final question. It's just your final thoughts around the recession and what you think businesses should do, or what you think is going to be important as we navigate the next 6 to 12 months. Any advice that you can impart on the businesses that are trying to navigate a very harsh climate that's upcoming. And then with that, we'll end it. And just as you guys are giving your final thoughts, anyone who is attending either again as a business owner or a agency with their clients, definitely take note of what you've learned in this webinar today, because there was a lot of great points, but also questions you have as a follow-up, because both of our teams were both here to help with personal strategies, making sure your business is going to feel supported and not be able to only survive, but thrive at the same time throughout the recession. So I very strongly encourage you to take notes and really think through what you learned here today. That way we can always have a follow-up conversation about it. But for now, I'll hand it off to Ahmed and Harshal to give their final thoughts and advice about the recession and what's to come in the coming months.
So as a business owner, I think things will get slightly tough, but one should not be afraid. There are a lot of good things that are coming out of this. A lot of digital adoption that has happened. A lot of people are now directly purchasing products from the brands. A lot of consumer shift has already happened, which has benefited the D2C companies. So they should not be worried at all if they're actually flexible, if they're able to understand the changes that are happening around them and react to that. Then they will be able to navigate. One should also be adaptive of the changes that might come in the future. Should be able to figure out the changes that can happen over the next 6 months or 12 months. Then that will help them plan better. One thing that I see happening is, which is actually a good thing, is the consumer spend is not reducing a lot. People still have liquidity, especially the consumers. They still have liquidity. They are still purchasing products, and unemployment is extremely low. And that means people are employed. People are still consuming. So do not be worried about the revenues going down. Just focus more on figuring out alternatives. For example, do not rely on ads as much as you did before the pandemic. It is not going to remain the same. Try to invest in other acquisition channels, experiment, and then also focus on existing customers. Try to impart an extremely good experience, try to create value for them. If you do that, then they will continue to be loyal to you. They'll try to get more value out of you, which means more sales, more revenue for you, and then they become your brand ambassadors. So focus on these things, and hopefully the next 6 to 12 months will be much better, I think.
I think this is about time to, this is the right time to build meaningful relationships with your customers. Maybe it's not time to double down on acquiring new ones, because this is getting harder, and it usually gets harder when there's economic downturns. So this is the time for you to start building meaningful relationships with your existing customers, those who trust your brand, those who bought from your store before, and those who will continue to buy from your store in the future as well. Maybe this is time to prepare for the post-pandemic, post-recession. Sometimes when it's recession time, you shouldn't focus on growing right now, but you should focus on preparing for what's going to happen after, because usually after recession, people are hungry to buy, are hungry to go down to the streets. So this is when you need to be completely ready to accept, to contain this kind of traffic after recession. One of the things that saved airlines during the pandemic was actually the frequent flyer programs that they had before, because when customers had miles to use, this is the first thing they did right after the lockdown was over. They started using their miles with their favorite airlines, and this is what saved many airlines after the pandemic, throughout the pandemic. So sometimes you need to start preparing for what's going to happen after.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think it's important to be proactive rather than reactive in a situation like this, because you want to be prepared, you want to have the right strategy in place. And obviously things will change, but being ahead of the curve is the way to go. And so thank you both so much for your time and your insights, because not only was it helpful, but it feels great to be supported by—
One other thing, sorry about interrupting you right now. But it's more about, I believe, since both of us are into partnerships, I believe right now, since there is this the downfall happening, I believe partnerships is also something that we need to look into, because more and more people are looking into agencies as well as partners. So this kind of is going to help us in creating the brand awareness. Apart from the brand awareness, we can also see how we can cross-refer clients, I believe. So like, since we are coming from the partnership and we do understand how it is working right now, and that's how this was a fruitful conversation for us. But I believe apart from the community, having partners and cross-referring clients is something that could definitely help us, especially right now, because a lot of people are seeing that there is a kind of a dip in the incoming leads, or let's say incoming clients. So maybe, partner referring each other would be something that can help us for the organization and to grow as well. And together, like growing together is something that can happen here.
That's a great point. And we both love partnerships like GLOOD and GAMEBALL. So you can't go wrong with a good partnership. So that's a great point. And thank you for adding that. But like I was saying before, it's awesome to have you both, Harshal and Ahmed, be supportive of businesses and offer this kind of advice, because being together in this kind of community is much more important than being apart. So thank you so much for all the insights you gave. And thank you to everyone who attended. Like I mentioned before, we're always open to chatting afterwards in terms of the topics discussed, how we can help your businesses thrive from this point. Our whole team is about, both our teams are about providing these personalized strategies and making sure that you're set up for success from using the platform to scaling with the platforms. So never hesitate to reach out. And we did record this session, so we will share it to our audiences if you ever want to go back and look at it again. But with that, thank you everyone for attending, and we hope you have an awesome rest of your day or evening or afternoon, whichever time zone you're in. So with that, we'll conclude, and have a lovely rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you, Lauren,
Thanks,
for such an amazing session.
Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you later.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
I think you have precisely the point, ending at around close to 10 for sure. I mean, like the right 1 hour mark.
Timing is everything.
Pretty much. All right, thank you guys so much. It was amazing to have you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys so much. See you.